Good evening. Gonna go over some answers to some questions today that people may ask about Pentecostalism and what actually is Pentecostalism. So, first, we're going to address the question of how did the movement start. And to be honest with you, I mean, it really has very humble beginnings. We hear about revival, on a small campus in Kansas, where we see a woman baptized in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, and we see miraculous things happen that draw the attention of others. And isn't that just like the gospel, where Jesus would be performing miracles and we would see these manifestations of miracles happening, and what happened, it drew crowds. So like that, just like the what we would call the church of the book of Acts, or even down to Jesus's ministry, we see groups following these miracles around it. So others come, and as they come and they find this, what they call refinding this new thing, this what was lost from the book of Acts, and this baptism in the Holy Spirit, it begins to spread. And then we see a pastor take it to the West Coast, in which the Azusa Street revivals would break out, which again would be even larger than what was happening in Kansas. And so as these manifestations are happening, miracles are happening, people are getting blessed, and they're receiving their, what Oral Roberts will call, their prayer language, or speaking in other tongues. The Holy Spirit seems to be pouring out again in a way that it was during the first initial Pentecost mentioned in Acts 2. So it was like this, something old was being now refound again and brought back up. So that's exactly how it grew. To answer the second question, was that miracles, signs, and wonders began to happen. This was not just what we would call, and I don't mean to water down Christianity at all, but I do feel that a lot of services, because I've sat in denominations that are very watered down, so I guess it kind of is safe to say that. But now this was beyond something that was just hyped up or whatever. This was actually people experiencing God in a way that they had never had before. And I know in one of the lectures we had heard, there's been pockets of this happening, all around the world, but talking about the American Pentecostalism movement, when it started to grow, it was because signs and wonders were happening. People were getting healed. People were speaking in prayer languages. They were speaking in other tongues. They were going out and being sent, throughout the world to go set up churches and set up missionary movements in other countries. So that's the main way that it started to grow. And then in which way has the history of Pentecostal movement affected me? I grew up Baptist, so I know the first night that I ever heard, and I've talked about this in a couple of my, excuse me, I've got allergies, so I'm gonna have to take a drink here real quick. My throat is really bothering me. I grew up Baptist, so the first time I ever heard this preached, the first time that I ever saw manifestations of the Spirit going down, same service, I knew that this was something that was real. I knew that it was something I wanted, and I felt like what I read and heard about those people feeling was that they had found something new, but it really wasn't new. It was something that is mentioned in the book of Acts, chapter 2, and what we see the what we call the early church going through. But it was like finding something all over again. And so I totally related with that whenever I heard that talked about and read about them finding this new thing that had been lost, per se, which is unique in of itself to spin it like that. But that is so true. That is absolutely true. So it affected me because it changed my life. I had been in a service before where I got saved and walked down the aisle and even went through with water baptism, but it was not until the moment that I received the Holy Spirit, years later, decades had went by, since between my water baptism and the baptism into the Holy Spirit, with the evidence of speaking in tongues, that things just did a 360 degree, or I guess 180 turnabout. But you know what I mean. My life completely changed dramatically at that point. So do I believe that every Christian should live the Pentecostal way? Absolutely, 110%. I know that it's confusing for some. It's weird for some. It's not, what some people would say their cup of tea. But I beg to differ, because I think that these churches that don't agree with the Pentecostal way, or let's just say just individuals who don't agree with the Pentecostal way, the Pentecostal way was the way of the early church. So I don't know, when they're reading the book of Acts, it's hard for me to figure out how they read this, and yet they dissect what they believe and what they think is right with. And I know I'm not going to get into all the theologies on all this stuff that they think, oh, why it's dead or it doesn't exist anymore, yada yada, or whatever. But you really have to somehow want to make yourself believe that in order to follow that type of pattern, because I don't see that pattern. When I see Jesus, given the commission there in the end of the gospel and the end of Mark, and then the pickup, going into the book of Acts, this is what the church looked like. This was how the church was commissioned to walk and to go out into the world with this power and authority. So that's why I think every Christian should be living the Pentecostal way. And one fact I think that everyone should know about Pentecostalism, I think that one of the things I thought was really cool was that Pentecostalism has been, excuse me, I'm so sorry about that, has been ordaining and allowing women to preach on the platform really longer than any of the modern, churches have been, because it was women that, a woman first had the encounter there in Kansas at that revival. And then we see, women be impacted and this imparted to from the very beginning almost. And isn't it weird that when we go back and we look at the Bible, we see women that are there in the upper room. We see it was Jesus who appeared to women after his resurrection. So women have always been included in the gospel, and it's because of this man-made doctrination that's went up into the modern church that has segregated women off to where they don't allow women to minister. And I've been a part of churches where the women aren't allowed to minister to certain degrees. So I think that's a cool fact, especially in the society we live in nowadays, where equality is being preached, especially gender equality. I'm talking about man and woman gender equality. And so excuse me, I think that is a cool fact. I think it's a great fact. I think women definitely have a place in the gospel. I don't remember who said it in one of the lectures, but they said a woman was quoted as stating that women help bring sin into the world through what happened in the Garden of Eden. And so it's they're here to help, since they had something to do with it, take it out. So I just thought that was kind of a little fun, a little cool, quirky comment that was made. So anyways, that's what I've got on Pentecostalism. Hope this helped answer some questions, and talk to you later.